Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my September book haul. I want to first off apologise for how long I know this video is. As I mentioned when I filmed my August book haul, I purposely did not combine the two because I acquired way too many books in the month of September. But before we jump into that, let's as always cover off on the library books that I picked up in the month of September. So in terms of library books, it was actually a really good month for me. I only picked up 2 books in the whole month of September from the library, so I'm really proud of that. The first book that I picked up is The Perfect Stranger by Mirena. This is the sequel to All the Missing Girls. This is not a direct sequel as far as I can tell. This is just I presume a companion novel because it shows up as being in a series, but I'm not sure how it's linked. This is another thriller, and from what I can tell, this one follows 2 women. One is a journalist who I think like her career is not going well because she's had a restraining order filed against her when she was like chasing a story or whatever, and she runs into like a childhood or high school friend that she knew from years ago, and they both decide together for whatever reason to move to like this small town to like restart their lives because her friend is has just gotten out of a really troubled relationship. When they move to the small town, a woman who has a very striking resemblance to the main character is assaulted, I think, and then her friend disappears a couple of days later, and so that's all I really know about it. I really enjoyed All the Missing Girls, in particular the way kind of the story was told, so I'm not sure how this one's going to work, but hopefully I enjoyed this one just as much. And then the next book that I picked up is The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. This is just the next book in the, I can't recall if this is 13 or 14 in the series, but it is the next Hercule Poirot book in the series that I need to get to. So now we move on to the books that I purchased with my own money in the month of September. I bought 46 books. That's right, 46 books in the month of September. Now, if you recall from my September wrap-up, it wasn't a great reading month for me. It wasn't a great anything month in terms of books for me, except apparently book buying, because I bought a lot. So let's get started. The first quite large pile, I think there's 27 books in this first pile, is from a secondhand book shopping day that I went on with my brother's girlfriend Shakara. We went around, as we have done in the past, to just lots of local Salvation Army and Savers stores in our area, and I picked up a lot of books, so let's go through those first. The very first Salvation Army store that we went into was very exciting because it's not connected on the same system as the other Salvation Army stores. I'm not sure why, but it's just run a little bit differently from the others, and the books in there are always a little bit cheaper. And when we first walked in, we also saw a big sign that said all books 50% off, and we were like, wow, okay, so this is really exciting. So I picked up 3 books from that store. The first one is Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. Now, I've heard basically all bad reviews of this, but sometimes when a book gets nothing but bad reviews, you just want to read it yourself so you can know what everyone thinks is so shit. I can't remember too much about what this is about. I think it's about her, like a girl and her friend, and they are like trekking up a mountain when they're like snowed in or whatever, and there's these 2 guys who are like dangerous, and they're like stuck in a cabin or on the mountain or something with them. I think, as I said, it's gotten really bad reviews, but this was $1.50, and I got it 50% off. So I paid 75 cents for this. So even if it's really shit, it didn't even cost me $1, so I'm okay with it. Next, I picked up The Whole Thing Together by Anne Breshears. I've mentioned I've read quite a few books from Anne Breshears. I don't know too much about what this one is about, but again, this one, I presume it's like from the cover, I'm guessing young adult contemporary, and this one was $1, 50% off, 50 cents. This cost me 50 cents. And the third book that I got is one probably I was most excited about, and that is Yes Please by Amy Poehler. So this one was $1. So I got this for 50 cents. And I've been wanting to read this for ages. And I was going to hopefully try to get it on audio, but my Overdrive, my like library doesn't have it on audio. And so I was like, oh, because I didn't want to purchase it because it's really expensive. And I was thinking about getting it from the library. And this in fact has a sticker from a store on the back. And this was $33, brand new. And it is like really nice because it's really like glossy pages and such. And it's got like photos and things in here, I think, if I can open. Yeah, like I have no idea what this is, but there's photos and things in here. So, you know, there she is, old Amy Poehler. So I was really excited to find this for 50 cents. Like, you just really can't go wrong. So next on the secondhand book shopping spree day, I picked up both The Rosie Project and The Rosie Effect by Graham Simpson. I believe this is an Australian author, and these are set in Australia, and I believe this duology follows a man, and I think from what I've heard, he is on the spectrum, and he has, like, it's very, like, scientific based, and he has this questionnaire, like this hugely long, I think it's like 20 pages or something, questionnaire that he wants women to fill out so that he can find, like, the perfect wife, and he gets help from this woman who, like, would not meet any of his criteria, and I am assuming that a love story is going to, like, start off between the two of them. Now, I have seen this first book in a lot of secondhand bookshops, and I've never picked it up just because I was like, oh, it's only the first one and I'd have to get the second one, and I'm not too sure about it. But then when I saw both of them there together in, like, these matching, like, editions, and they were $4.25 each, I just decided, why the heck not? You're going to see quite a theme of why the heck not throughout this haul, so next, I found a series by K.A. Tucker. So I have 10 Tiny Breaths, One Tiny Lie, and 5 Ways to Fall by K.A. Tucker. I believe this is book 1, book 2, and book 4. And they didn't have book 3, which is 4 Seconds to Lose, but seeing all 3 of these together, and these were, how much were these? $3.25 each. I just figured I could purchase the fourth book from, well, the third book from Book Depository, and if I have to pay a little bit more for that, overall I will have still got the series for really cheap, because I've been wanting to, I don't know, I can't even remember what this is about. I believe this may be new adult series, but I've been wanting to read something by K.A. Tucker for a really long time, so I saw these and I just decided to give them a go. Next, at that same store, I found another incomplete series by K.A. Tucker. So we have Burying Water, Chasing River, and Surviving Ice. So I believe this is books 1, 3, and 4, and we're missing book 2, I think, which is Becoming Rain. So I have no idea why there were these 2, like, 4-book series at the store, neither of which had, like, a middle random book. I could have understood if it was that they didn't have the last book, because maybe someone had bought the series and not ended up enjoying it and so never purchased the last book. But I don't understand why there's, like, the third book in this one and then the second book in this one missing if they had been bought by someone else. But that's really annoying. If you see a whole series at a store, at a secondhand bookshop, and then you buy, like, just the one book in the middle of the series, that kind of annoys me, because, like I say, now I've got, like, these incomplete series, and I do have on my wish list now from Book Depository these, like, books that are missing from these series to purchase. And again, these were $3.25 each, so I'm just really, and again, I think this is a new adult series, but I'm not even really that sure, but yeah, I was just excited to pick them up, and willpower was low. Next, I picked up After We Collided by Anna Todd. This is the second book in the series. I don't own any of the others, but I always see copies of these in secondhand bookstores, and I really do want to read this, even though I've heard not necessarily the best things about it. I think this is really, really trashy, but sometimes you just need a bit of trash in your life, like, am I right? So I picked this up, and I will probably just, as I see the other ones in the series, when I'm at secondhand stores, I will just eventually pick them up and hopefully collect the whole series for pretty cheap. Again, I believe this one was $3, so you really can't overlook it. Next, I picked up another book by Becca Fitzpatrick, and this one is Dangerous Lies. This one is about a girl, I think, who's living in a rural town because she is a witness in a murder trial, and so she's in witness protection when she starts to fall in love with someone in the town, and I don't think she should, because she's not supposed to be, like, you know, become connected to anyone when she's in this, like, witness protection situation. And I presume this is going to have a thriller-ish aspect. I don't think I've heard anything about this one, but my reasoning for this one was, oh, I bought another Becca Fitzpatrick book, so I should buy this one as well. And this one was $3.25, so I just grabbed it. Next, I picked up Hex by Thomas Oldhovalt. This is a book that I marked as to read quite a while ago now, I think, like quite a few months ago, but I saw this there and I remembered that I'd marked this as to read, and this is quite intriguing. This is about I think a small town that is, like, being locked down, the town, because it's got this really, like, crazy haunting situation with like this witch creature, and I think the teenagers in the town are not happy with being like locked down into the town, and so they decide to go viral with the haunting. But let me just read you this little excerpt from the blurb. Welcome to Black Spring, a picturesque town with an ugly secret. A 17th century woman with sewn shut eyes and mouth walks its streets day and night, enters its homes, watches its people when they sleep. They call her the Black Rock Witch. This sounds creepy AF, and I am here for it, and this one was $3.25. This next book just goes to show you what kind of mindset I was in on this day, and so this book is Day 4 by Sarah Lott. I picked this up, had a skim of the blurb, it sounded interesting, and so I grabbed it. It was $3.25. When I got home, I realized that this is actually the second book in, I think it's a duology. I never do that. I am pretty good about always checking on my phone to see whether a book is a part of a series before I bought it, and like this is what kind of mindset it was. I didn't even look at this book, and so I think I'm just going to put this straight into my box to unhaul because I've never heard about this book or this series, and I just probably don't care about it enough to spend money on the first book for a duology that I've never heard anything about, and I only spent $3 on it, so it's not like I've lost a lot of money. If you have read this book or the first book, which is something about 3 days or day 3 or something, and you've read it and you think it's really, really good, do let me know, and maybe I'll purchase the first book and read the duology, but I've never heard of this, so yeah, I just will probably end up getting rid of this, to be honest. Next, I picked up a copy of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I own a couple of copies of Pride and Prejudice, but it is my favorite Jane Austen book, and I saw this. So this is like a cloth-bound, like hardcover edition, and this was $3, and it's got some like really nice like illustrations in it. So like that's the title page, and it does have some like old school kind of illustrations. I just saw it there for $3 and figured I may as well grab it and add it to my collection of Pride and Prejudice editions. Next, I picked up The Other Half of Me by Morgan McCarthy. So this one is, I think, a literary kind of thriller about a brother and a sister who have kind of raised themselves, like they just keep to themselves and look after each other, and then one day their grandmother returns and she, I think, starts to tell them like their family history or whatever, but as the years go on, the cracks start to show in the story that she's told them, and maybe everything is not what she told them. I've never heard anything about this, but I grabbed it and it sounded interesting, and it was $3.25, so I bought it. Next, I grabbed All Fall Down by John Saul in this like mass market paperback edition. This was $1.25. John Saul is an author, who wrote, I read a lot of books from him when I was like a teenager. I own one by him. I don't know where it is on my shelf, but Second Child, which is one of my like favorite books from my teenage years. He writes kind of horror thriller type novels, and this one I think is about a town where all of the babies start to die in their cribs, and so yeah, I just saw this and I never see anything by John Saul anywhere, so I just kind of grabbed this because I don't think I ever read this one, but he is an author that I used to really enjoy. Next, I found a book called Fun House by Dean Koontz. I have read this. I saw this there and I decided to purchase this because this is a book that I read when I was maybe like 12 or 13, and it's the first book that I remember reading and thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to be reading this. Like, would mum and dad let me read this if they knew what was in it? Because I think this was my sister's book, and I remember very distinctly I was reading it at my grandmother's house when we were in Adelaide for Christmas one year, and I mustn't have had any books left or something, and so I picked up my sister's book, and there was this kind of like sexy scene in the start, and I was like 13 and like, oh, am I allowed to read this? But of course I didn't say anything. I just read the whole book, and it was quite scary. It's probably one of the first like really like adult scary thriller type books that I'd ever read as well. So I just decided to purchase this really just for nostalgia so that I could have a copy of it, because this is a pretty like, it's in pretty good condition, and this was only $2.25, so I figured that I would just snap it up. Next, I picked up a copy of The Beautiful and the Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a book that I've had on my to-read list for a really long time. I have read The Great Gatsby, and I think this was talked about maybe in Gossip Girl that they were doing a movie at one point. Serena was involved in a movie based on this book, and I don't think I'd ever heard of it until then, but that made me want to pick it up, and I just saw this edition, and I knew that it was a book that I'd wanted to read for a long time, so I decided to grab it. This one was $3.25. I believe this is about a couple who are married and they are living this really like rich, you know, lavish lifestyle, and when I think the money starts to dry up, their marriage starts to have problems. I don't really know anything about it apart from that, but I was really just like drawn in by this edition and I decided to grab it. Next, I picked up Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. This is one that I've heard a lot about. The main cover that I've seen of this in the past has like the two flowers growing in opposite directions on it, and I marked this as to read a while ago, and this I believe is about, I think it's a woman and her life takes all different paths. Like it says on the back, during a snowstorm in England in 1910, a baby is born and dies before she can take her first breath. During a snowstorm in England in 1910, the same baby is born and lives to tell the tale. So I think it's like you follow this woman's life through the many different paths that it could have taken depending on these like key moments. It just sounds really, really interesting. I've heard about this mainly from Simon from Savage Reads and Lauren over at Lauren and the Books, and they both really, really love this book. So when I saw it there, this one was $4.25, I picked it up. Next up, I picked up a book that I'm not going to lie, I mainly grabbed because of the cover, and that is The Radleys by Matt Haig. So this has this like blood drop earring, and I just thought that was kind of cool. And on the back it says, some appetites are not so easy to deny. Meet the Radleys, Peter, Helen, and their teenage children Clara and Rowan, an everyday English family, averagely dysfunctional, averagely content, except for the family secret. When Clara is provoked into a desperate act of violence, it becomes clear that Peter and Helen are hiding something from their children, and it involves blood, other people's. It sounds kind of intriguing. I think it's probably going to be a vampire story because, like, there's a neck and blood, like, so, you know, vampire is what my mind immediately goes to, but I just like this cover. It sounds like an intriguing premise. This one does not have a price. I have no idea how much I paid for this, probably like $3 or $4, so oh, there you go. It was $3.99, so yeah, I grabbed it. Next, I grabbed Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. I believe I paid $4 for this one as well. This is quite a like recent-ish psychological thriller. I believe this one is about a married couple who seem to have the perfect marriage, but everything is maybe not as it seems. Kind of your typical thriller. I love typical thrillers, so yeah, I was glad to see this for only $4. And the last book I picked up on that day was Good Me, Bad Me by Ali Land. This is I'd never heard anything about this, but the cover, this like shiny gold, and on the spine, I picked it up, and the back sounds really interesting. It's about a girl whose mother is a serial killer, and she turns her mother in, and I think she's preparing for the trial, like where she's gonna like testify against her mother, when she starts to kind of rethink what she's doing, and it says like blood is thicker than water. Just sounded really intriguing, and this gold cover is just really shiny and pretty, and so I grabbed this one. This one was again $3, so why not? So the very next day after this big shopping spree, I did go to one other random Salvation Army store that I'd been meaning to go to the day before, but I didn't get to, and so I just popped in with my sister to have a quick look, to kind of see what they had, and they really don't have very many books there at all, and not a very good selection, but I did find one book that I was interested in, and that is The Zookeepers Wife by Diane Ackerman. I got this for 50 cents. This is the book that a movie came out recently, was based on. I believe it is set during World War II, about a woman who hides Jewish people in her zoo. And yeah, it was only 50 cents, so I decided to pick it up. Next, I had a couple of books from QBD. I think it was in my July book haul that I had purchased with a gift card, and I think I'd mentioned in that video that I'd purchased one other book and hadn't realized at the time that it was like on pre-order, and so it didn't ship for quite a while, and that book came in, so I didn't purchase this in September, but it did arrive in September, and that is Shiny Broken Pieces by Sona Charapotra and Danielle Clayton. This is the sequel to Tiny Pretty Things, and so now I own both of these. This is about, I believe, ballerinas behaving badly. It just sounds really, really good, and so I now have the whole duology. Also for my birthday, my brother and his girlfriend gave me a QBD voucher again, and I hadn't spent it yet, and I went into QBD on my week off work, and I only picked up one book. I do still have that gift card left, and I've also been now given a gift card as a going away present when I left my last job for Dimmicks that I haven't spent yet either, so October could be another dicey book haul. But I picked up The Dry by Jane Harper. This is a thriller novel, I believe, about a whole family that gets murdered and the investigation into that. I've heard a bit about this on BookTube, and I think I've heard good things about it, and I saw it there, and this one was on special for $15, so I just decided to grab this one with my gift card. Next, also on my week off work, I had recently discovered, I think I mentioned maybe in my last book haul, that I finally discovered a secondhand bookstore, like local-ish to me, that will take, like you can trade books in, so I can give books in, get credit for them to spend at the store. And so I knew that one of the things I wanted to do on my week off work was go to that store and trade some of the books that I've had for ages I've been meaning to get rid of. So I had that planned, drove to the store. I had their opening hours. It was supposed to open at 9:30. I got there just after 9:30 and it wasn't open. Like the roller was down, like it wasn't open like at all. And I was like, oh, okay, like maybe, I just know that it's one woman who kind of runs it. So I was like, maybe she's running late. So in all my infinite wisdom, I decided to go to the Savers that I normally go to that's not too far from there to kind of kill some time before I would come back and check if it was open. So I went to Savers and I spent way too much money in Savers. First off from Savers, I picked up The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. I have no idea what this is about, but I've heard a lot about David Mitchell. I know he wrote The Cloud Atlas, and I just saw this edition and I just thought it was really pretty, and I know people like really rave about David Mitchell. I'm not sure if his books are going to be something that I would enjoy, but this one was only $4, so I just decided that I could pick it up and give it a go. Next, I picked up a copy of Mirena by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. So this says a gothic tale for all ages. When I grabbed this, I thought this was about a like female vampire, and I have no idea now if that's what this is about reading the back. I was drawn into this because at first I thought it was that book, but I also really love this because it's like a naked hardcover, like there's no dust jacket, and it is just really, really pretty and really gorgeous. I really like gothic books, so hopefully I'm going to enjoy this. Next, I picked up a book called Witchlight by Susan Fletcher. This is one again that I've never heard anything about, but it had the word witch in the title, so that drew me in, and the back sounds quite interesting. It's set in 1692 and it follows a girl who is imprisoned because everybody believes that she's a witch, and a man comes to question her because he believed that she was a witness to the massacre of Glencoe. I don't know if that's a fictional massacre, if that's something that really happened. And in order for her to tell him what she saw, she wants to tell her story. So I presume that this is going to be her story, and it had witch in the title, so I bought it. Next, I picked up a copy of The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. I've read a couple, I've like hit and miss with Jeffrey Eugenides. Jeffrey Eugenides wrote The Virgin Suicides, which I DNF'd. It was one of like the first books I ever DNF'd on this channel. I really, really didn't like that book. But I've also read Middlesex by him, which I did quite enjoy, and I saw this one there, and I don't really know too much. I think this is literally just like it's a literary fiction about marriage, and I just decided to give it a go because I did really enjoy Middlesex. I don't know how this one's going to go because it seems to me like it could be really dry and boring, but I'll give it a go. Next is the book that I am most excited about in this entire haul, and that is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This was not supposed to be out as far as I could tell. I've looked everywhere. I don't know if this is supposed to have an earlier publishing date in Australia, but I couldn't find any details about this. As far as I'm concerned, this was supposed to be published at the end of October. This was in towards the end of September, and I was in, so I didn't even see this brand new. I saw this secondhand for $4, and this is in the really beautiful Australian editions that matches I don't have a physical copy of the second book, which, oh my god, the title is escaping me, but I do have the first book in this edition, and so I snapped this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to read this actually in physical copy because I did listen to the first two books on audio, and I really love the audiobooks of this, and I have requested that my library like get a copy of the audiobook, so I may wait a couple of weeks and see whether that audiobook comes in and then listen to it on audio, but I was so excited to find this for only $4. Next, I picked up a copy of The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. So this is a historical fiction about a woman who I think is newly married, and her husband gifts her this like dollhouse type thing that is a replica of their own house. And I think that there's this man who like makes figurines and stuff and keeps giving her new things like for the house, but the stuff in the house starts to reflect her life. And it's quite a gothic tale. I've been interested in this for a really long time because it just sounds like something right up my alley. And so when I saw this there, I think this was $4. I just snapped it up. Next, I picked up Under the Harrow by Flynn Berry. This is another one that I recognize because I'd marked this as to read in recent months on Goodreads. And this is about a girl who is going to visit her sister. And when she gets off the train, her sister's not waiting there to meet her. So she goes to her sister's house. And I think the police are already there, or she discovers the body, I'm not really sure, but her sister has been murdered, and I believe this is just about the sister's murder and finding out what happened. Next, I picked up The Forgetting Time by Sharon Guskin. this one is a title that I thought I recognized, and so I picked it up and I read this synopsis and it just sounds really interesting. It says, Janie's son is her world and it breaks her heart that he has nightmares, that he's terrified of water, that he sometimes pushes her away and screams that he wants his real mother, that it's getting worse and no one seems to be able to help. In desperation, she turns to someone who might have an answer, but it may not be one that she's ready to hear. It may also mean losing the one thing that she loves more than anything, Noah. So I have no idea. And like on the back it says Noah is 4 and wants to go home. The only trouble is he's already home. Like, what is this like about? It sounds really intriguing. This was $4. So yeah, it just sounded really interesting. Next I picked up The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. I have another book, I think it's The Lake House by Kate Morton, that I bought quite a while ago that I haven't read. But Lauren from over at Lauren and the Books was recently talking about Kate Morton, saying that she really enjoys her book. So when I saw one there, I was like, oh, Lauren enjoys her, so I should pick up more from her. And they actually had this and another one there, but the other one had a really ugly cover. So I bought this one. I have no idea what this is about. All I can tell, like just by a quick skim at the back, that this is told in like dual timelines in 1961 and 2011. And yeah, Lauren likes this author, so hopefully I enjoy her books because I now own 2 of them. The last book I picked up from that trip to Savers is Northanger Abbey by Val McDermid. So this is a retelling of Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I think it's just a modern day retelling of the story. I was drawn in by this really bright orange book and the title, obviously, Northanger Abbey. Northanger Abbey is my least favourite Jane Austen book, but basically any Jane Austen modern day retelling is something that I'm interested in reading, so I decided to give this a go. So after purchasing all those books in Savers, I went back to the secondhand bookshop that had been the whole purpose of my trip in the first place, and it was now open, so I went in and traded all of the books that I had to trade, and I got $20 worth of credit. And so I got all of these books here, and this was $30 altogether, so it only cost me $10 because I had the $20 credit. So I think I calculated and each of these books cost me like $1.43 or something like that. So total bargain. So I picked up Salems Lot by Stephen King. She had a lot of Stephen King there, and you would think that I would see Stephen King everywhere in all of these secondhand bookshops that I go to, but I hardly see any Stephen King, and if I do, I see a lot of Dolores Claiborne for some reason, and that's one of the ones that I've actually read. And she did have a copy of it, but it was really, really battered. And this is not in great condition, but with the credit and stuff, I just decided to pick this up because I believe this is one of his earlier novels and it is about vampires and it's one I've wanted to read for a while. So I figured I could just pick it up in this battered edition, and then if I really enjoyed it, I could always purchase another copy. So I did pick this one up. In addition to that, I picked up these 5. They're not all part of the same series, I don't think. Are they all Point Crime? I'm not sure. But these are all like those kind of like, they're not YA or middle grade. They're kind of like in-betweenish kind of maybe like YA, like thriller, you know, like Fear Street type books set in like high school. These aren't Fear Street, but I have been wanting to pick up some of these type of books secondhand and I never see them anywhere. So when I saw like her kind of section and she had a few of these, I literally picked up all of the ones that she had. I decided to snap them all up because I've been trying to look for these type of books everywhere. So I picked up Overkill by Elaine Ferguson, Mother's Helper by A. Bates, The Fever by Diane Ho, The Train by Diane Ho, and The Fire by Carolyn B. Cooney. So I have no idea what any of these are about, but I'm so excited to read these because these books were my jam when I was like a preteen. And the last book I picked up from that store was The Basic 8 by Daniel Handler. So I saw this and I again recalled that this is something I'd marked as to read on Goodreads a really long time ago. And I think this is about a teenage girl who's a murderer. I think. And I just remembered that I'd wanted to read this and I saw it there, so I snapped it up. So finally, we have 2 books left to go, and these are 2 books on that same day that I'd been to Savers and the secondhand bookshop where I got the credit. There's a Salvation Army that I kind of go past on my way home, and I'm an idiot, so I decided to just go in and see if there was anything interesting, and there were. I picked up 2 books from there. The first one I picked up is Murder in Mississippi by John Safran. This is a like non-fiction book about a murder. It says in the Deep South, and I believe it was a race crime, and it is about him investigating and like looking into what happened with this race crime. It just sounded really, really interesting and really kind of topical at the moment. So I grabbed that up. And the last book that I picked up was Paper Towns by John Green. I got Looking for Alaska a while ago. Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns are the only two, I think, by John Green that I hadn't read. I still haven't read Looking for Alaska. I do own it now. And so I saw this and I was like, oh, I might as well just grab that. I think this was $2, so I thought I'll just grab that, and then eventually, hopefully, I will have read all of John Green. So those were all of the books that I purchased in the month of September. You may have noticed that there was no Book Depository books in this order. That's just because I think I mentioned in my last month that somehow it had worked out that 2 orders had arrived in August, and it just worked out that none arrived in September. So yeah, I don't have any books from Book Depository, but I didn't need them because I already had 46 books in this haul, which is just, quite frankly, ridiculous. I apologize. I know this video must have been epically long. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, if you have any thoughts, or how your self-control went in September, because mine was obviously rock bottom. I'd love to chat in the comments down below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye, guys.